taken into consideration when the marks card is written for that particular kid. This is indirectly written in NEP, not directly, but it is visible from the total length of that which you can see from it. These are the main takeaway for the parents.
So does the academic bank credit, the system of
Yeah.
accumulating credits, does it have any linkage also in the fact that when you're talking about that multiple entries and exits, and in that way
Yes.
also help the parent and the student stakeholders?
Exactly. I think you just gave a very good link to continue with that. Very nice, ma'am. Thank you for reminding me. There is something called academic, credit bank (ACB). What is it basically? Suppose I say a student is in particular college and he studies, let me say, 3 subjects or 5 subjects, and each subject having 3 credits. 3 credits is basically 3 hours per week. That's what you mean by 3 credit at present. Later it may be slightly different. For example, he studies physics, let me say. It has got 3 credit and he passes the 3 credit exam with particular grade, and this actually will be in his credit. This will be digitally stored in the national level, at national level. Suppose he passes the exam of chemistry with something, that also will be stored. And suppose he moves from this and then to the another institute, all the credits will be transferred, because now all the institutes will be of the same level, because after the accreditation is done, everything will be equal. Not only just moving from one college to another college, also moving from one level to other level. See, for example, first year he gets some credit, takes a break, comes back to second year. Now, whatever the credits he has got, that credit after a break, if he comes, will be added up to the next year. That is what it calls basically as the academic credit banking, and it's a very good system. And parents will be much happier now. I mean, they should not think that my boy is a school drop now and or the college drop and he's not doing anything, etc. Many of them will come back, like this. See, for example, at present, if you look at the movie making or film making, etc., and all that, it is attracting many of our youngsters. I could see basically many youngsters are creating wonderful, creations in terms of movie, short films, etc., and all that. Now, these kids actually can also learn that as a curriculum. Suppose I say he is studying science, but he wants to study, what is called film making. He can do that. Movie making, he can do that, and then take the credit, go to the field, do some work, get some knowledge, come back again. And again, I will tell you one thing more. There is also cross boundary, the transformation, transfer is also possible. Suppose you have taken a science program, you can move to an arts program later in the second year, taking the credit and changing your, the entire courses. Courses means subjects. These are all the major advantages with the NEP.
Okay, so basically, we've been talking about the overview of the NEP till now in the previous segment. We have also covered how it is affecting the student and the parents stakeholders. Now, I would like to ask you about what do you think is the takeaway for faculty members in higher educational institutions?
Okay, it's a very good question. Actually, faculty is separately addressed, and there is a small chapter for the faculty, like what all the faculty support is being given in the NEP. The first one I would like to mention that if the faculty is not good, actually the whole process will completely, it will become a disaster. So therefore, lot of importance is given for the faculty development. What is a faculty development? See, first of all, at present now we have B.Ed for 3 years. Earlier it was for 1.5 years, etc., and so on. Now this is actually upgraded to 4 years. Now in the 4 years upgradation, what are the things that will be included? It is just not the pedagogy, but also the skills. For example, a teacher who comes out of the B.Ed after 4 years will be coming out with pedagogical skills, also the art skills and other, the side skills which actually he wants to develop. And this is going to make himself as a student when he is studying through the B.Ed course and then comes out. Now, similar training programs are also planned for technical education and higher education faculty members. For example, a teacher who is studying, BSc or BA will also have to go through these training programs. And at present, it is at 2 years, or will be uploaded to again 4 years. Similarly, for technology also, there will be a faculty development program or a faculty development course or a program which actually teachers have to go through that. This is number one. There is one sentence which actually, I just love to state once again to that. This B.Ed colleges or the B.Ed or the Bachelor of Education courses which I mentioned about 4 years program, they have taken it so seriously. A sentence is written that any non-performing B.Ed institutions will be, will be penalized in the sense that there will be a punishment for any institution, training institutions, teacher training institutions who are not performing better or who is actually giving a very low quality education. Now, this says that the importance given for the faculty. Now, there is another importance that is given for the faculty. Starting from the school, they are going to say that what should be your entry level, the qualification, what are the skills you should have, how do you get actually recruited. So the recruitment policy is going to be completely transparent, and that will be made mandatory at all levels. For example, school level, there will be a particular set of rules and regulations which are transparent, and similarly for college level different, professional courses different, and so on. Now these type of framework will help anybody to tune themselves into that. That is number one. Number two, how is supposed to be career advancement, what I say, promotion for these, the teacher will be done. Even those are being laid down, and by 2021 or 2022, now these regulations will be made properly and will be let out to public. And after that, I think in the 2022 itself, it will be implemented. This helps a sort of structure for all types of teachers, starting from primary school up to the final year or the higher education schools as well. And then lot of funding is being given for teacher training programs, number one, also for research and innovation. Now there is one more thing which actually I would like to bring to your notice. Research and innovation is not limited at only higher education institutions like colleges. They want to bring that research and innovation at school level itself, and therefore even the school children along with the teachers can actually are eligible to get the funding for their own small research and innovation projects. This is going to be a real, what you say, renovatory thing type of, the measure in NEP. And lastly, I would say that the faculty who would like to perform in terms of research only, now these people will be given scholarships to continue with their research. They'll be given funding, and these funding will have again transparatory regulations like what will be the type of funding a teacher will get when they want to do some research, and then the outcome will also be converted. There is one more thing which people are trying to look at in the NEP is the outcome from these teachers. So this is outcome driven from the teachers, so there will be an appraisal, and these appraisals are also going to be there from the school teacher up to the higher education teachers, and this will also have some framework. Means at the end of a year, what all the output a teacher has given in terms of teaching, in terms of educating the students, in terms of his the contribution to the enrichment of curriculum or training program, etc., and so on. Whether he has done research, whether he has done some innovation, etc., and so on. So this appraisal is also going to be a transparent and also will be made mandatory starting from school level to college level. So these are the major takeaways for the faculty members.
In terms of the different universities, I think we will also have different the research-based universities and other things. So does it mean that will the scope for collaboration with the top tier institutes like IITs and IIMs now become more realistic? It was there in spirit, but not really happening that much. So what are your views on that?
Yeah, see, for example, when the IITs were actually framed, in those years, they were actually looking at giving a very good technological education. But if you see from past 5 years, 6 years, these IITs have developed a lot of online platforms through NPTEL programs and SWAYAM programs and so on. That means the teachers who are supposed to be the best of the lot of the entire nation are not only catering to the students of IITs, now they are catering to the entire community of India. All these courses are free at present, and this will be taken it further, number one. Number two, as you asked me, there is a research innovation university. What is the major structure of this research innovation thing? In the research innovation university, less of teaching will be done for graduation and undergraduation one. Less of teaching, it's not that it's completely away, less of teaching. See, for example, if you look at now Indian Institute of Science, it is at a research innovation university. Most of the time, the faculty there will be involved only in the research, and less of teaching will be there. There will be interaction with the students. This interaction will not be a regular, course like or something like that. Though they have master degree and PhD, the teaching will be less. There will be more of research, involved research along with the students. One question which you asked, what will be the type of collaboration from this to that? In fact, NEP says even the school children also can take the collaboration